It's All Things Considered from Minnesota Public Radio News. I'm Tom Cran. The state butterfly is in trouble. Scientists report a drop of nearly 60% in the number of monarch butterflies making it to their winter home in Mexico this year. That's the lowest level since record-keeping began 20 years ago. The numbers reflect a trend that has occurred over the last decade. Joining me now for some perspective is Karen Oberhauser. She is a biologist at the University of Minnesota who specializes in the monarch. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tom.
So in your view, what is the significance of this decline in the count?
Well, it's very significant, and I should point out that this is a drop of 60%, not from the average over the last 20 years, but this is a drop of 60% from the previous low. So it's a huge drop, and it's very sad. Everybody knew that the numbers were low this year, but none of us knew exactly how low they actually were. So it is a great concern.
Do we know why this is happening?
Well, there are probably a lot of reasons why it's happening. We can think about habitat loss as probably the most important, and that's habitat loss that's occurring in the United States where the monarchs breed and where they migrate. Every single monarch that goes to Mexico has come from a milkweed plant somewhere in the United States or southern Canada, so a lot of them come from Minnesota. And we're losing a lot of habitat that they need for breeding. This is happening because we're losing habitat in agricultural areas due to the increased use of herbicides allowed by herbicide-tolerant crops. But we're also losing habitat in non-agricultural areas. The spread of people into areas, what we call suburban sprawl, is taking away a lot of habitat.
Now, this count, we're seeing the butterflies who are in Mexico this time of year, but does that mean, do you see this trend in the number of butterflies then who come to Minnesota in the summer?
Well, the butterflies that come to Minnesota are not the exact butterflies that are moving out of Mexico right now. We'll be seeing the offspring of the butterflies leaving Mexico. So there's a chance that the population could rebound in the southern United States. If they have good weather conditions and if they don't have a lot of predators, we could see more monarchs in the northern part of the United States, including Minnesota.
Can the trend be reversed?
I think that it can be reversed. If we really focus on wherever we can providing habitat for monarchs, this can include something even as small as people's yards.
And how would that work? What can people here in Minnesota do?
Well, what we can do is, instead of having a lot of ground devoted to monocultures of Kentucky bluegrass, we can plant native plants that provide nectar sources, so flowering plants. We can plant milkweed plants. Roadsides can be managed in ways that are more friendly to monarchs and other pollinators. Hedgerows in between agricultural fields, right-of-ways along railroad tracks. So there's a lot of land out there that would be appropriate habitat for monarch breeding and migrating. And what we need to do is just manage it so that it is more monarch-friendly.
Now, the monarch butterfly is the state butterfly of Minnesota, and you've made it your life's work. So tell us, are you worried?
I am. I found myself being really sad today after learning how low the numbers actually were. I think that monarchs are a really important symbol of the natural world and our connection to it, and lots of people are working hard to preserve monarchs. So it's kind of sad if we can't save something that we're all working so hard on. So I am concerned about it, but I think that it's hopeful that we do have this public attention, and being the state butterfly of Minnesota, I think is really important. It means that people might sit up and take notice with these low numbers and hopefully be motivated to do something about it.
Karen Oberhauser, thank you very much for your perspective on this. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Karen Oberhauser is a biologist at the University of Minnesota who specializes in the monarch butterfly.